you have to get it going again. Well, good evening, everybody. So I'll just do some quick introductions. So I'm excited to have you all here. So I am Brian Alkema. I'm the New York State 4-H livestock specialist, and so I am the livestock and companion animal specialist here in New York State. I oversee all animals except for dairy cattle and horses. So I'm pretty excited about you guys joining our series of 5 livestock summit. Last week we had Eileen Jensen from New York Animal Agriculture talk about advocating for your project, advocating with the public, and basically teaching the public about the animal agriculture. So for that tonight, I'm extremely excited to have Tracy Denninger from Champion Choice Camps, who actually is from Ohio. She comes from an FFA background, and she can share that background with you. But very excited to have her. I met her last year with my own kids, participating in a camp down in Pennsylvania. So with that, I will have some stuff that I put in the chat boxes for a Jamboard. So those that aren't familiar with the Jamboard, you'll click on the link and be able to, there's a sticky note, and I'll walk you through it once we get to that. At the end of the event, at the end of the presentation, we'll then go into a Kahoot. I do have a Kahoot for 15. I think we have 15 questions on the Kahoot as a kind of review for tonight. So at the end, so when we're all done with the presentation, make sure you don't jump off, but just stay on for the game. All right. If you have questions, don't be afraid to use the chat box. If you're just joining us, just if you want to put in the chat box where you're from, that'd be fantastic. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to you, Tracy.
Thank you, Brian. Certainly excited to be here on a virtual side of talking about what we do and how we get our project started. I think what's different a little bit tonight is that we're going to talk about all species. And so it might be maybe just a little bit general, but I think all things apply across the board. And you can apply a lot of this stuff and these strategies from rabbits to sheep to goats to horses to dairy to cattle and anything in between. And so I think what we're going to do is we're going to talk about how do we get this done at home. Okay. A lot of these livestock and exhibition projects don't start the day you step into the ring. And if that's when you're starting, you probably want to reevaluate your process. You're probably not finding yourself in a good situation and an enjoyable experience if you're kind of waiting to the last minute to get those things done. And I'm telling you right now, you're involved in an industry right now that's very exciting. There's a lot of opportunity for youth, whether it's sitting on these Zooms at night, talking to people across the country about projects, whether it's watching online sales, whether it's going to clinics and opportunities in your area, tons and tons of opportunity that those are the people that are your parents and are your advisors probably didn't have those kind of opportunities coming into the industry. So you should find yourself in a very fortunate situation to have the resources and the access to those things that we do right now. So tonight we're going to talk about how do we get it done at home. And I kind of just want to get a few questions answered from you so that we can get you involved in the process, and I can get a feel of kind of what the population here on the screen is where they're at on these events. So I want to know what your motivation is. So Brian has got a series of links that are going to come over to the chat. When you click on that, and I'll switch my screen out, but the 4 questions we're going to talk about is, I want to know what motivates you. What's your why of showing livestock? What do you think the components are to be successful in exhibiting livestock? How do you plan to manage your project? Or how do I plan and manage my project? What do you think goes into those things? Or what do you think is your, pillar in your project as to how you plan it? And what do you want to know tonight? What do you want to know? What specific things do you wish I could talk about tonight? And maybe we can incorporate those. So those are the 4 questions we're going to ask. I'm going to change my screen over to the Jamboard. And as I'm doing that, just to give you a little bit of background, I was an ag teacher for 20 years. I was state staff for 10. I'm currently retired. I've played in sheep my entire life. From when I started in 4-H to right now. I'm currently playing in the white-faced business and registered Dorsets. And so those have been my entertainment. I run camps and clinics all over the country. I've been doing these Champions Choice clinics for 25 plus years, and we do sheep, goats, and pigs nationwide. So I'm going to share my screen. I gave you some instructions. Look at that. I already see that. Okay, so right here is the sticky note. If you guys click on that sticky note, it'll give you a sticky note and you're going to answer the questions. Why, okay, why you show. All right, and I'm going to try to move some things around a little bit. You guys are pulling it back for me. So we got some animals down here. Fun, this people. Promote my herd and flock. Okay, I like those things. I love animals, family, and people. Spend time with the animals. They like the buckles and the banners. They like the money, being with animals. I show because I get to create special bond with my animals. That is definitely true. Okay, those of you that are drawing, you're having a hard time with instructions. It's a sticky note. Type on the sticky note, paste the sticky note. Okay, no fine arts credits are given tonight for drawing, so just kind of keep that in mind. Future of agriculture, fun, animals, okay? I really like the fact that you guys came in here and told me on this particular question, it's all about the animals. I like that that is 100% the center of your attention, because that means that you really have an interest in the care, management, focus, and delivery of training the animal in the project. Okay, I like that. Love it. All right, let's go to the next question. Our next question is, what do you think it takes to find success? What things do you have to bring to the table that you find help you successful in your livestock project? So again, it's a click on the sticky note. This would be link 1 in the chat. It's actually the second link in the chat, but at the bottom of it, it has a number 1 at the back of the link. Correct, Brian?
So what they're gonna have to do is, when you're on your Jamboard, at the very top, there's just arrows where it says 220. Just click over to the arrow and it'll take you to the next screen. Up on your
there we go.
screens. All right.
Yep,
so you
up
guys
here.
should just be able to slide over.
Good. Okay, I wasn't sure how that would work on the virtual side, Brian, so I appreciate that. Okay, we have some answers coming in. We have time, we have effort, we have hard work, multiple tries, lots of practice, hard work, devotion and compassion toward the animal, hard work, good, practice, hard work, dedication, effort, hard work, good. We're starting to see this. This is a practical group we're working here. Dedication and time. We still have drawers that maybe don't really know how to work with the animals or do hard work, so they're kind of off topic. Practice, hours, loving what you do. That is right. If you don't love what you do, you probably should have an honest conversation with your parents that this may or may not be something for you if you're not really feeling like you don't love this. You have to practice, 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 practice. Okay. Love these answers. Okay. Love the group we have here. Ambition. That one there is awesome. Gets an extra sticker. Learn from your mistakes. Holy smokes. We're going to make mistakes in this deal. You bet we are. We're going to make a lot of mistakes along the way. And if you don't have the heart to learn from your mistakes, we're going to have those problems. All right, let's go to the next one. What do
Just remember to slide over, guys, at the very
slide
top.
over, click your arrow at the top. That is correct. What do you want to learn, or what do you plan? What do you do to plan and manage a project? What's your pillar? What's your secret? Okay, what's your secret to planning and managing your project to the success? Okay, daily routine, we set goals. I don't plan much. I just know that I have to do it and I get it done. Okay, sometimes just being gritty pays off. Daily monitoring, remembering to be kind, routines that help make decisions, training, okay? Routines, diet, budget, routines, being in the barn every day. Yep, it's pretty hard to be successful if you don't go see the animals. Record keeping, weight, goals. Good. Man, this is a great group, Brian. Great group. Internal drive, tracking your weights, calculating everything.
I love the internal drive
Having a
one.
good
That's
mentor.
that's my new
Oh yeah,
favorite.
this one here is key. Yep, yep, this one here is key. Yep. If you're not driven in this deal, it's pretty hard to make yourself go do it. And again, there's nothing wrong with not having that drive if this is not the passion you're seeking for. Again, let's save our families some money, some time, and do something that's fun for the family if livestock's not it, okay? And it's okay to have those conversations with those people to say that maybe that it's not it. Okay. I think my drawer might be ready to have those conversations with their family that this is not really what they're passionate about. All right. If we go to the next one, what do you want to learn? Okay. What do you want to learn tonight? How to make my animal more comfortable, confidence. Okay. That's a good one. How to better train. Okay. I'm gonna write a few of these down. Training.
Remember just to slide over, everybody. Just slide over to
Yep.
top arrow.
Click your arrow over here at the top to slide over. Be my best self. Those are good.
The daily tips and tricks, that's good.
Daily tips.
Hitting techniques.
Sitting. Yeah.
What do I feed on show day? Right?
Okay.
And I think that's an interesting one. And I think the title will help you a little bit on that one. It's not just show day, right? It's what gets done at home too.
Yep.
Be more
Those are
successful in the
good.
ring. Be my best in the ring. I want to learn to keep calm.
Calm. Yep. Calm.
Very good.
Understand the animal. Those are good too. Okay.
Very good.
I just want to say something about keeping calm. That's a very, very important trait, and I think that's very important to learn at a young age.
100%, Chloe.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, let's just talk about some of those things. And I'm going to be honest, it's going to be a pretty open conversation about what this looks like, because again, I had to make this relatively generic to kind of fit across all species. But to be honest with you, I really do believe that all these things come into play, no matter the species, no matter the project. So one of the things that I like to talk about that a lot of people don't like to talk about, they don't even really feel like it's part of the process. And one of them is the pre-project considerations. I think this comes down to a family meeting, because the family unit, having livestock in the family, means that time is going to have to be given to the animals outside of family time. So if you enjoy doing that together, great, this fits in pretty well. But I think there's some things that you need to identify. You need to identify how many animals we're going to have split amongst the kids and what the role is as to who's going to have what. I think you need to look at the budget, okay? Nobody wants to talk about this, but this is not a project that you can kind of invest in and then just let go. These things have got at least 90 to 120. And if you're in the steer business, we're talking at least a 6 to 8 month, if not a 10-month project. And if you're not aware of what that's going to cost to do that, you're going to get caught in a trap where it may come down to a decision is to who eats this week, my family or the livestock. Okay. And I've had several families in my FFA chapter who had to make those decisions, and the kids would tell me horrific stories about how in the wintertime they would sleep in front of the fireplace because they turned the heat off in the house in order to have high quality show stock. And to be honest with you, parents, I don't know if that really is good for a parent-child relationship. If livestock means turning the heat off in the wintertime and making your kids really kind of rough it to get to the other side. So I think you really need to have an honest conversation about what your budget looks like, the cost of the animals, the cost of the feed, the cost of the bedding, the cost of the supplies, the cost to go show. You need to have an honest conversation in your family as to what you can work through on a budget. You need to identify your resources. What do you need? These things obviously need some housing. They obviously need some feed sources. Where do you get that? What are you going to feed? Who's going to be your breeder, your supplier, your sale? How are you going to secure these animals? How far are you willing to travel? You know, are you willing to take a blind squirrel off an online sale, and he shows up at your doorstep and you never physically went to look at him, or you didn't talk to the breeder online to find out anything about this animal, and he shows up? Two things are going to happen, really. You're either going to be pretty comfortable with your decision you made online, or you're going to be really miserable with the decision you made online. And I'm not, you know, here to tell you that it's not easy to sit behind the screen and just click bid all the time. It's a commitment when you hit that final click to bid that you purchase that animal. And if you did that without talking to the breeder or out seeing it or anything, you're probably going to be disappointed when it arrives at your doorstep. What kind of equipment do you need? Do you have a breeder or a mentor or a club advisor that can help you through the logistics when you don't understand, you know, why your lamb or whatever is standing in the corner, or how do you get to shear it, or you go to your first show with it sheared and you're like, wow, this thing doesn't look like everybody else's. I probably need to get some help on this. Another thing that I think you guys got to do as a family is you need to identify your target show. Okay. What's the end game? Because that's going to determine what that thing needs to weigh when you get it. And how many days you're going to have it on feed to convert to what you believe is your competitive weight for your showman. You know, I 100% believe that a 9-year-old should not be out there sticking 160-pound weather. Okay. Unless your family is very experienced in that particular species, it's really hard for a 9-year-old to work something that's a little older, a little heavier. And if the experience is miserable, that's probably going to be the end of showing livestock. Okay. If the kid's in the gravel or in the dirt all summer because the animal just continues to outpower them, that's not a very good experience for them, and they're most likely not to stay with it. So I encourage families to talk about selecting livestock that fit the age and ability of your showman. the family's going to have a whole lot more fun when that happens. Set your goals. Set your goals for the kids. Set your goals for the animal. And it wouldn't hurt to identify those goals and post them in the barn, so that every day, everybody that goes to the barn to see that set of livestock knows what the target is. If you don't have any goals and you don't have any targets, it's pretty easy to do this pretty average. Okay. There's a lot of average people, and the ones that are the average are outside of the top 5 that get selected as your overall 5. Those are the average ones. All right. This business, like I said before, it has a lot of resources. It has a lot of opportunity, and those who choose not to engage in those may or may not have the same opportunity to put in the work. Okay, so you have to be committed if that's what you want. If you're just in this to have fun, then some of this stuff doesn't matter. Okay, and this is a social circle for you, that is okay. You're going to meet a lot of cool people that is going to expose a lot of job opportunities to you down the line, just because you were involved in the 4-H and FFA livestock industry. All right. Here's the things that I believe are controllable, and I like that word controllable. And it's controllable by you, the exhibitor, by you, the family. Okay, you have the ability to control these variables that are going to have a direct impact on the outcome. Okay, and those things are selection, nutrition, health, the environment in which these animals live in, exercise, management, showmanship, grooming. They're all controllable variables by you. Okay. And they're all manageable, but you got to have some base knowledge probably to become more familiar with it. All right, one of the big things I like to talk about selection, and we could spend days on selection, so I just kind of want to scratch the surface here a little bit. But I think one of the important things in selection is to find somebody who wants to work with you for the right reasons. Okay, as a breeder, I want to work with kids who like showing Dorsets, who like showing sheep, and their success is my success, but I like working with them because I like to see those kids learn. Okay. It's not about how many times I can stand in a backdrop holding a banner as the helper. It doesn't mean that for me. I like to meet kids where they're at and see how far we can propel them in their experience and their knowledge to again put them back into the industry somewhere. One of the things that I think is probably the most overlooked is determining a start weight. If you don't know where you need to start, you're going to get surprised probably when you finish, because you're either going to be too light, you're going to be too heavy, things aren't going to add up, and you're like, well, I don't even know how I got here. It's really easy to sit online right now and you think you're bidding on these baby lambs. I'm sorry, but those pictures were taken in October when they were babies. All right. So again, if you don't talk to those people, you don't talk to those breeders to actually know how old those lambs are, how some of these breeders are just they were born in 2024. Well, their tags start 2024. They say 24 dash whatever. Well, those could be Decembers. Those can be Novembers. Those can be Octobers that actually start their 2024 season. So buyer beware, okay, of not knowing what their birth date is. And you know, if they took pictures of those baby lambs in December and they're just putting them online in February and they mark them February 20, or they mark them that they're 2024 born, you probably should figure out a month that goes with that. Okay, because that's going to impact your end target on weight. So how do you determine that? If today's February 1st, right, tomorrow, and your show is July 31st, you got February, March, April, May, June, July. You got 6 months. 6 months times on a sheep, average daily gain is a half a pound. So I got 160 days. My sheep is going to gain 80 pounds, plus or minus. Okay, and I want to weigh 140. If I was to get my sheep today, that sheep probably needs to weigh anywhere between 50 and 60 pounds to be within range. Okay, So you got to do the math. If you don't know how to do the math, again, it's like putting a blindfold over you, throwing a dart, you may or may not hit your target. Okay. For those littler kids, those weights obviously can be less. For your more experienced, more advanced, older kids, those weights could be heavier just because you've got the ability to get them shown and managed. All right. I pulled 4 things out on things that you should look at when you go look at young animals, whether it's steers, goats, sheep, pigs, whatever. Okay. There are 2 things that are not going to change. They actually are going to get worse as they mature. Okay. One is balance. If they're unbalanced as a baby, they're unbalanced as a mature animal. That is not going to get better with maturity. We're going to start adding muscle, we're going to start adding fat, and we're going to start blowing skeletal design apart. Structure, if they're bad-legged as babies, okay, feet and toes don't go north-south, they don't have base width, they're narrow at the hocks, they're buck-kneed, that is definitely not going to get better with age either. So I think when you start to look at them, you need to, and it's hard to just look at a picture. Most of these guys are picturing on carpet, okay? Or they're using a whip, right? To pull the head and neck up out of these pigs. You got to be conscious about knowing that you're just looking at a picture. We can fix a lot of things in a picture. You want to see videos so that you see the integrity of the build and the structure in that animal on the move. So I think those 2 things are important. Okay, muscle. Listen, if those things are muscled up as babies, they are going to be ridiculous as mature animals. Okay. They don't come out like baby Arnold Schwarzeneggers. They just don't. Okay. They got to be able to grow into that muscle. You guys, you know, your mothers didn't have offensive linemen when you were born, okay? But over time, you have matured into an offensive or a defensive lineman with some maturity, some mass, some stoutness. So think about those things when you're selecting. The other one is bone, okay? Bone, that it's if you look at it on a growth curve, it's a constant. It goes straight across. It never goes up, it never goes down. So bone density, bone mass, foot size, that stuff all kind of stays the same. And so I would encourage you guys to go online, go to some of these judging type social media platforms, study their diagrams. They use circles, they talk about these things, and just kind of teach yourself what to look for in selection. All right, nutrition. This one here, guys, this one's everything. This one's everything. It's everything. Okay. They got to be able to eat, and they got to be able to convert. All right. These things need to grow. When you're looking at a feed or you're considering a feed source, number one, they got to be able to eat it. That's palatability. Okay. Do they like it? I don't care if it's $50 a bag. If they don't like it, it's not worth the money. All right. They have to physically eat it. You don't want them to sort it. You don't want them to leave part of the important nutrition. And a lot of that is found in the pellet technology. Okay. Goats are notorious for sorting pellets. Sheep will also do it. It needs to be affordable, okay? Go back to your family budget. What did you guys budget for feed? I'm just going to tell you most of the bagged product that comes, you know, pre-packed complete feed is going to be anywhere from $20 to $25 a bag. I bought a bag of Show Right the other day. It was $25. The Combach Power Takeoff I usually can get for $22 to $23.95. A bag for a 50-pound bag. Okay. So, know what stuff costs, find something that is easily accessible to you so that when you forget to tell mom and dad that you need feed on a Friday night, they don't have to go clear across the state of New York or clear across the country to go get the feed that you're feeding. Try to find something local that you like. If there's a few of you in your club or a few of you in the area, that like to feed a Purina feed, and maybe that feed company in your town, that feed store, doesn't carry it, you guys can kind of pony up with each other and say, hey, if you can get a pallet a feed for us each month, would you be willing to do that? Okay, these feed guys, they want to talk to you. They want your business. And so don't be afraid to pony up with kids in your club or kids in your neighborhood that need those feed resources to kind of put in a good push for something that you guys like. Storage for freshness and security. Okay, there's nothing worse than living in a humid part of the state or a humid part of the country. If you leave these bags and let's say you're like, well, I'm just going to go ahead and buy the whole ton of feed I need for my entire project. I can guarantee you that when you get a third of the way through, you're going to start running into mold. And the reason is because the humidity becomes a factor, and that moisture comes into the bags. And then we've got moldy product, and now you've got livestock off feed. You may have some sick animals, and then your goals to get to your target weight, you're just not going to get there just because we've ruined some feed bags. And now you got to throw that out. So it's like throwing $50 bills in the trash can. Probably not a good idea. Okay. So make sure you have a place for freshness. Now, security. This is huge. You're like, what do you mean security? If your pigs, lambs, goats, or steers get out, can they get into your feed source? If it's a yes, you need to be highly concerned because it will kill them. Overeating is a serious issue. If you forget to latch a gate or they get out and they get into the feed, you are at least 5 to 10 days of getting their gut back to where it needs to be because they just went on an eating binge like no other. And they're going to paint your entire barn a brand new color. And you're really not going to like army green. Okay? So you need to make sure where you keep your feed is 100% not accessible by the animals if they have a breakout. Okay? Sheep and goats are the absolute worst. They will destroy your place. Absolutely destroy it. All right? Ruminants need forage. Okay? Our goats, our sheep, our cattle need forage. They don't necessarily need rocket fuel. Okay? You don't need to go to the dairy and buy the third cutting jet fuel alfalfa. All right? You need something, just a nice grass hay that's made correct. It's dry. It didn't get rained on and it's not moldy. You just need a scratch factor for that gut. Okay? But they need to have forage. Daily feeding. Okay. I don't really care if you get up and go to the barn in your pajamas at 6 a.m. to feed your sheep and you feed at night at 6 p.m. That needs to be a schedule. If you're going to feed at 10 o'clock in the morning when it's starting to get hot, that's fine. Okay. But don't expect your consumption or your gains to be that good. They should almost eat before you eat. And based on what you guys told me of how you're passionate about your animals, you want to take care of animals, you want to care about the animals, you need to feed them almost before you come to breakfast. Okay, get up, get them fed, get them taken care of, and try to keep them on a 12-hour schedule. One of the biggest things I see is a lot of our kids play sports in the summer. They're playing leagues, they're playing AAU. They come home after a doubleheader or a triple game or something crazy, and they're feeding late at night. And the sheep and the goats and even the cattle, they want to eat really, really fast. The consequence of that is choking. Okay, and if you've never seen it, the first time you've seen it, you think this animal is going to die. So, word to the wise. If you are outside of your normal feeding schedule, put rocks in the feed pan. Rocks. Fist size rocks in the feed pan. Not gravel, not pebbles. Rocks. And what that will do, it will slow down their consumption because they have to eat around the rocks. and that choking, okay, will be reduced. You can also wet the feed. That will also help, okay? But if you have been late and they're like screaming at you when you get to the house to feed, you probably should throw the rocks in the pan. It's just going to be a good night. If you don't, you're going to get yourself into trouble. You're going to have a lot of choking. What should these things consume every day? How much? How much do you feed them every day? 3% of their body weight. That's standard across the industry. I don't care if it's cattle, goats, whatever. 3% of their body weight is what they will consume and feed a day. So if I got a 100-pound lamb, 3% of that is 3 pounds. I'm feeding twice a day. I'm going to divide that. I'm going to feed 1.5 pounds in the morning and 1.5 pounds at night. That's just standard across the board. 3% of their body weight. If you're underfeeding them, you are going to get that result of those sheep, goats, pigs, cattle being underweight of where you wanted to be because you really didn't maximize their potential for consumption because you shortchanged them on their percent body weight. So as they progress in body weight, you take that 3% times 0.03, their weight, that's what they get a day. If you want to push a little bit, you can add a couple ounces. Don't ever add more than 2 ounces at a time when you're up your feed. Okay, you don't want to be like, oh, today I want to feed 1.5 pounds, and I think tomorrow I'm going to make him 2.5. That's a bad situation. You have to take them there gradually to get to that point. So 3% of their body weight is standard consumption. Free choice, mineral, salt, baking soda for the ruminants. Why baking soda? It fixes every gut problem you didn't know you had. Baking soda is 99 cents a box. It's the cheapest input you're going to buy for this critter. Open the box, put it in a feed pan, fasten the feed pan, free choice, baking soda 24/7. If they don't need it, they won't eat it. If they need it because their belly hurts, they'll eat it. If those sheep, goats, cattle eat that baking soda and they never missed a beat on feed, you just saved yourself 5 days of, weight loss because that animal worked through a gut issue that you didn't even know you had.
So
Okay.
Tracy, I'm just gonna, so sodium bicarbonate.
Sodium bicarb. If you go to Walmart and ask for sodium bicarb, they're going to look at you like an alien. Okay. If you go to the feed store and ask for sodium bicarb, they're like, they want to entertain you. Okay. They're offended if you ask for baking soda, but Walmart, baking soda, feed store, sodium bicarb. Absolutely. Okay. The last one, huge. Fresh water access 24/7. If you look at that water bucket and it's full, but you wouldn't drink it, they ain't gonna drink it either. Okay. Dale Hummel Goats, one of the most prestigious goat operations in the country. They change water buckets 7 times a day. So basically every 3 hours. They dump the water bucket, offer fresh. Every 3 hours. Okay. Water is the key to metabolism, which is the key to consumption, which is the key to weight gain. It's the key to all of it. Okay. A lot of us, including myself, probably would feel a little bit better and be a little healthier if I drank more water. I have a hard time drinking water. Okay. I drink my coffee in the morning. I might have a Diet Coke. I might have a swig of water when I come out after night chores, but I bet you I barely drink a bottle of water a day. My metabolism would probably fire up if I started drinking a whole lot more water. All right. So water, 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 water. Okay. I know a sheep is 2.5 gallons of water. You can look and research what your daily requirement for water is for your species. Catherine has a question.
Sorry about that.
No, you're good.
So on the daily feeding, I have about 2-3 week old, I think, I don't remember. And we just started her on creep feeding.
and yeah, I threw a little bit of alfalfa in there because she likes that, and I sprinkled a little bit of her grain on there, and she ate the alfalfa and the grain, but then we also have a tub of the grain, just like so she can eat, and she won't eat any of that. I don't know what to do.
Okay, well, because you've already spoiled her with the alfalfa. They're gonna pick the alfalfa every time. So I don't keep the feeders full of alfalfa. I might feed alfalfa at night if in the
Okay.
creep. I don't put it in there all the time. I don't stuff it in there. That stuff is like candy to them, man. That's like Skittles. They're like, boom, I'm hitting these Skittles. I don't want that. I don't want those caramels. Ugh. Okay. So they're not gonna eat the grain. So what I do is if you're gonna creep a sheep or a goat, try to start on a like 22% pellet that has some dequinate in it or some decox for
Okay.
coccidia. If they're already starting to eat what the ewes are eating, you can kind of put that creep pellet in a self feeder. You can go buy those plastic self feeders that have 2 holes in them, and you can just fasten them to the fence. Those work really good.
Yeah.
Especially if you don't have a whole lot of babies and you only just got a couple. And then put that pellet in that self feeder, and then in a feed pan that you hang on the fence. Never, ever, ever, ever feed anything on the ground. Do not put feed pans on the ground. They're gonna step in them, they're gonna pee in them, they're gonna poop in them, they're gonna look like trash. And their necks are always down to eat, so feed is trying to move up. You don't want that. You want feed to move down. So you want them not to necessarily eat high, but you want them to eat where it's coming up and then going down, not going, you're working against the system, okay?
Yeah.
But you can put some grain, some mixed textured grain in those troughs. But here's the key. Once you start with a self feeder, never ever ever let that self feeder run out on baby lambs.
Okay.
Because if you just like you're like, oh my God, it's empty, and you just put it back in there, they're stupid. If you didn't vaccinate for overeating, they'll just hit that thing until they're, lights out. And then you got overeating and they're toxic. And that's just not a good situation. So once you start self-feeding in the creep, you have to have feed in there all the time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're
Yeah.
welcome. Isabel?
So I have a question. I have a cow, and with her hay, that's basically most of what she eats, and she has grain in the evening. But with some of her hay, if she sees dust hit the ground, then she won't eat it. And I don't know, like she's very picky with her hay, and I don't know if there's anything that you suggest with her not being picky.
There are divas. There are hay divas. I have some myself. Number one, try to, select hay that is of quality. If you run into a flake that is moldy or dusty, you know what I mean? I always just pitch that. I don't even use it.
Mhm.
Because I don't want it to. So you may have to, if all your hay appears to be dusty like that, you might want to reconsider where you're buying your hay, or maybe upgrade to a different cutting. Like if you're feeding off first, right? And you know that the spring was wet and those guys couldn't get hay down, you're going to have a problem because it's dusty. So maybe try to go to a second cut where the weather was better. When they actually cut that hay. So that might be just a really good conversation for you to have with whoever makes your hay.
Okie dokie.
Does that make sense?
So I was
MK.
gonna say, let's just,
Yeah,
we've got a lot to go yet, guys.
Yep.
So let's hold our questions until the end. All right. So you're welcome to put stuff in the chat and we'll just keep
Yep.
going.
All right. So the other thing is, if you got to weigh these things, guys, you got to weigh. You have to weigh. If you're not weighing weekly, you have no idea where you're at, no idea where you've been, no idea where you're going. You could go 3 weeks with no gain and have no idea that your lamb's not gaining. And you're like, oh, they must be sick, or maybe he's wormy. You don't even know what's going on. So you need to weigh. And you can put a chart on your board, a whiteboard in your barn, keep track of that. You know who's going which direction. I like to feed individually. If you don't start that right away, it's really hard to implement down the road because they're social animals. So you can feed individually by just putting, you know, a gate in between them and they can see each other. I have a family that just has some hog panels that are cut and they just collapse to the fence. And when they're ready to feed, they just unfold them and then they drop the pans in and the lambs come in. So again, that's a controllable variable. If you feed together, you can have you know, Bubba, who's going to eat everything, and then Peanut gets absolutely nothing. She might pick up the oats that are underneath, you know, Bubba's mouth. Bubba weighs 190, Peanut weighs 80. Okay, you have completely taken yourself out of any potential because you're way under the weight and you're way over the weight. And so you need to control what these animals are consuming, hopefully by individual feeding or feed like animals together, right? Feed the lightweights together, feed the heavyweights together. But again, when push comes to shove and you're really trying to dial in, I think you're going to find an advantage of feeding individually. Health. The only thing I can tell you guys about this is number one, you're going to have to create a vet-patient relationship with your veterinarian. You're not going to get many of these meds anymore without a script. Okay. And you need to pay attention to what your animals are telling you. If they're standing in the corner, they don't eat, they're off feed, they're droopy ears, they got a snotty nose, you need to pay attention. That's not going to fix itself. Okay. For every day that they don't come to the feed pan, you're going to be a whole day behind on gain. That's a problem. You're not going to get to where you're going to. So you need to be progressive about paying attention to the detail, the weather. You know, buying these animals online right now, they want you to take possession of them because they're November animals. If you're not set up in these conditions to have livestock, probably shouldn't have them. Okay. So you need to pay attention to those things because if these things are unhealthy, it's becoming very difficult to get the meds that you need without a script from your veterinarian. Anything that is script and your neighbor gives to you, buyer beware. You're producing a food animal. Okay, you need to be familiar with whether or not that drug is approved for the species in which you're feeding and what the withdrawal time is. Okay, that thing at some point will end up in the food chain. So you need to document those things and work with your veterinarian to keep these things healthy. When you get them, ask about the vaccinations that they should have had. Do they need further vaccinations? Is the breeder or the seller going to offer those vaccinations before you take possession to monitor and make sure that you have the best opportunity for that animal to be healthy the whole way? So that one is really tough. Environment. Okay. Environment drives health. Health drives feed intake. Feed intake drives gains. Gains drives what this thing looks like phenotypically in the end. Ventilation, bedding, right? Being able to maintain a normal animal body temp in the summer when it's hot, clean, dry, plentiful bedding. You can pick it with you know, a manure pick. You can replace it weekly. I don't expect these things to be on the same bedding the whole way. It's probably just not ideal. These things need access to turn out. Locked up in a little pen for 90 days, it's like a goldfish. You put a goldfish in a small little bowl, it's not going to grow. You put a goldfish in a pond and it has the ability to be ginormous. So that environment is going to allow the growth and performance of your animal. I would look at, do some research of finding what the square footage should be for your pen size. Okay. But you don't want them in too small of a pen every day. And because when you just sit every day and you can't get up and go out, you don't really feel like eating. And so their consumption is going to go down because of that. You need to have fans when it's hot. You need to turn them off when it's cool. You need to know when to utilize those. You need to keep your feed pans off the ground. Everything needs to be clean. You need to remove those feed pans out of the pens after feeding so that they're not walking over them, stepping in them, and dragging them outside through the mud or whatever. That needs to be a clean feed pan, so that it is encouraging for the animal to eat out of when you put the feed in the next time. So environment is really one of those things that is easily controllable, but a lot of people just take it for granted. And then they kind of ask questions after the fact of, oh, why didn't my animal make weight? Or, oh, you had it penned up in a 4x4 pen the whole time. It never got to go outside. It never saw the light of day. There's just a lot of things that go into that environment. So do your research, read about those things, look about what is the ideal for the species in your industry, and give them that optimal opportunity to be healthy, to intake feed, and to gain, to be the performance animal you want it to be. Exercise. This one's controversial. Okay. A lot of people think more exercise, the better. It's not true. Okay. You can break one down as fast as you can build one up. My rule of thumb is that they need to reach maturity before you start doing any kind of exercise. And when I say maturity, that means their ability to put on fat. If they are not at the point where they're putting on fat, they don't need exercise, because everything that they're consuming is building muscle, building structure, building skeletal width and dimension. If you start exercising before they have the ability to put on fat, you are going to compete against that muscle build, and you're actually going to deteriorate the muscle development rather than enhance it. And so you have to be mature. Your weight gain has to slow and your fat needs to increase before you can really get aggressive in exercising. If you are a short-term project showing just county fair, most of you aren't going to have to exercise a whole lot, just because if you're buying a January goat, a January lamb, or even a December, and you got a July county fair, you're not going to have a whole lot to exercise. Now, if you're going to try to show a fall in an early summer show, maturity is going to be reached probably the 1st of June, and you're going to have to work extra hard to keep that animal where they need to be dialed in on fat. So this is really knowing and understand the physiological growth curve of these animals and understanding their age. But if they're not putting on fat, there needs to be no exercise going on. Okay. And most of you guys just focusing on county fairs, your exercise is going to be relatively limited. If you're showing well into the fall at some of those bigger shows, your maturity is probably going to peak at that midsummer, and some of those fall shows, you're going to have to start doing a little bit of exercise to maintain that physique that you want. But know and understand fat and muscle composition. If you don't understand what that is, and you just hear the word exercise, I'm telling you, you're going to get burnt on that deal, and it's going to kind of destruct what you thought you were trying to build. And it's okay not to exercise, but again, exercise can beat you just as easily as it can make you. So you have to understand and look at that animal every day and evaluate how fat you are, how much muscle you have. Does he look like he's becoming chiseled? Is he developing okay? That's really a discussion point between your mentor, your breeder, and your family to figure out where they're at on that maturity before you start tearing into exercise. Track dogs seem to be pretty popular. Okay, I'm just going to warn you. You put a 9-year-old on a sheep that's been tracked by a dog, and somebody whistles or clicks, that 9-year-old is probably going to be laying flat looking up at the sky. Those kind of cues trigger those dogs, and when those dogs are triggered like that, them sheep hear those, they hear it, they know what it is. They become psychologically trained to know what the cue is. All right. Those dogs have teeth. They will bite. They will tear one up. If it is not in your repertoire of understanding how to use a track dog, you probably should talk to the professionals about it. Again, you have to have a pretty old fat sheep in order to tolerate a whole lot of track. Okay, that is aerobic, intense exercise. And you just got to be careful. Okay. Same way with treadmills. You can't put one on there and be like, yeah, I'll come back in 20 minutes. You are destroying that animal. Anything that is exercise needs to be short, quick, aerobic to build muscle. Putting one on the treadmill for 20 minutes is going to make him more fit to run, the New York Marathon. It's not what you want to do. Those are long string bean kind of build people. Those aren't your muscular people that are running those marathons. All right. You're trying to build the defensive line, not the marathon runners. Okay.
So Tracy, I think one of the things you told us last year at one of the camps was take them to the end of the driveway, let them go, and run to the barn.
Right. They all want to go back to the barn. They all want to go back to the barn. Take them to, if you got a long driveway and it's pretty safe and they can't really get off the beaten path, walk them down there, let them go, turn them around, let them go. And if you put feed there when they get back, holy buckets, they're going to come like heathens back to the barn on a fast sprint. Okay. So just be mindful and think about safety when you think about exercise. There's a lot of things that can go wrong on the exercise. All right. So use your resources, use your mentor, use your breeder to help you guys define where you want to go on the exercise. Management. Okay. These are just regular things. Regular feeding times. I told you guys that up front. Every 12 hours. Track your weights weekly. If you don't have scales, you can buy these platform digital scales now anywhere for like $250. You're like, oh my gosh, that's expensive. If you're just getting into this deal, that's $25 a year times 10 years in 4-H. And when you sell them, if they're in good shape, you're going to bring more than what you paid for it. I can almost guarantee it. Okay. The resale value of some of these things is crazy. But you need to track those weights. You need to understand where they're going. Supplements. This is a crazy business. Oh my gosh. Just because you do a ask on social media, you're going to get 50 different answers. And some of those people, I don't even know if they know what they're talking about. Okay. I would look at some of the answers that those people are labeled top contributors. That means they give detailed information. And when they throw a supplement out and don't give you any background on it, you should probably beware. They may not know what it does. Okay. They didn't ask you how big is your lamb, how big is your steer, how big is your pig. They didn't ask any of the questions to see where you're at in your feeding program to throw what supplements at them. Okay. So again, I think those supplement conversations need to be between your feed rep, but there's a lot of things that do the same things as a lot of these pretty wrapped supplements. So again, you got to become a consumer and a learner in this industry to know what contributes to those things. Using industry recommended practices. If you're showing steers and you got to grow hair, then hey, washing and rinsing is part of your everyday routine. If you're showing sheep and goats, you ain't washing them things every day. You're taking the lanolin out of them. You're opening yourself to fungus. That's a bad idea. Okay, goats hate water, so rinsing goats every day is not probably a thing of what's going to work either. How much time you spend on hair and hide management, okay? Pigs, they're showing these things hairy and burly, all right? But they still want their skin to be conditioned. So brushing coconut oil and different things into that hide that help manage the quality of that. Those things are what help separate showmen. Training them, these things got to be broke. Halter breaking, know what tools work the best. You don't put a chain halter on them and tie them and expect for them to break themselves. Driving tools, know when to use the phantom halters, when not, when to use a chain halter, when not, when to use a whip, a pipe. you know, whatever works for the animal. They are all different and they all respond different. You can't use the same cookie cutter tools on every animal and expect it to work. They're all wired different. They all come with different personalities. So I think it's very, very important that we understand those differences. Showmanship, guys, this is big. Like, if you can't get these things shown, everything we've talked about don't matter. It don't matter. If it looks like the WWF out there and the WWE and a big SmackDown, it ain't good. It's not good. You never gave the judge an opportunity to evaluate your animal. You don't have control of the situation. It's terrible. You need to prepare a work schedule. These days we're going to walk. These days we're going to set. These days we're going to work on bracing. How do I get my goat to stand still? You put them on the trimming stand and the narrowest one you can find so that they learn that this is the limit. Okay, there's got to be a negative consequence when they step out, which is kind of stepping off of the stand. You know, these pigs, they got to be able to go in and out of the holding pen without going cray-cray. You got to be able to handle them. You have to be able to manage them. That takes time and trust, and that building that relationship that you guys all told me about when we came on. This one takes the most time. So rinsing and playing in the water, growing hair, that's all well and great. But at the end of the day, in the sheep and goat business, the hair on those knees and hocks from the knees down just go in some waste bucket. There's no added value for those. But you did a great job growing that hair, but you got beat because you couldn't get them shown. Okay? That's the worst feeling in the world, to do all of the rest of the things, but you can't get them shown. So you need to be able to get them shown. You need to learn. You need to go to some camps, some clinics. You need to watch videos. You need to watch The Good Showman. You need to sit at a show and watch the classes and understand how the judge uses the ring. No one should ever go show their animal without watching a class first. Now, if you're in class 1, sorry, you just stepped up to the big leagues today. Okay? You better pay extra attention to the judge and what he says. But you should never, ever go into the show ring without watching the pattern that the judge uses to move them around or any of those things. You need to know what's going on in there. Okay? There's nothing more frustrating as a judge of getting to the end of the day, and I still have kids that don't know what my symbols mean. They come in, they set up on the other end of the ring. That's not how we've been doing it all day. Most of these judges will do it the same way every time. Use the mirror. Mirror, mirror on the wall. Who is the best showman of them all? Okay? That mirror is not going to lie to you. You can set that thing up. You can walk your animal by it. It's going to reflect right back to you what that thing looks like. If he looks like a donkey, you better figure out how to make it look like a unicorn. Okay? Because a donkey does not win. Okay? Unicorns win. Figure it out. Stand in that mirror and fix things until you think he looks like he's supposed to look like. Go look at the champion pictures. Go study. What are those points that you want to mirror? What do you want to, how do you want to do that? Look at it, study. Okay? All the athletes watch game film. Do it too. Watch game film. You can go back and watch these shows, Denver, Louisville. They're all on video. Pull them up, study them. Find a person you like what they do. Become that person. Okay? You need to practice so much that you can't get it wrong. You have to practice so much you cannot get it wrong. Okay? And when you do that, that's the confidence that you all said you're looking for. If you don't practice, how can you be confident? You're scared to death. Okay? Especially if you got the donkey sheep. I like those. I like the hard ones. I want the hard ones to show. I want to figure them out. There's different bells and whistles to show them, and man, that's just fun to figure it out. Okay? The easy ones to show, anybody can show those. I like to show the hard ones. Okay? But this practicing will make you confident. I can guarantee it. All right. You got to put yourself in uncomfortable situations. If you've never been to a jackpot show, go to one. Go to one. You're going to be amazed at what you learn. Okay. Be prepared for a not so good day, but you're going to learn what you need to do to get better to go the next time. It's going to show you a lot of things that you were not prepared to see, of how things really work and how well things can go. Grooming, know the rules. Okay. Know what you can and can't do. Read the rule book. Never show one directly from the pen. No, never just take him out of the pen and go to the ring. That's horrific. I would be embarrassed for you. Okay. They need to be washed prior to the class, not the night before or the morning before. Time it so that you can get all your fitting done and you go in fresh. So from wash rack to the show ring, how long is that going to take you? Sheep and goats, it's usually 20 minutes if you're not going to pull legs on goats. If you're going to pull legs on goats, you're going to have to probably start an hour out. Cattle, you know what you got to do when you got to pull hair and if you can use adhesives. Okay. But that starts with a fresh bath. So you're talking 45 minutes to an hour prior to your class. All right. But nothing should be pulled out of the pen and taken to the ring. That's ridiculous. Okay. That does not support the idea you guys told me that said attention to detail, right? Being detail oriented, being passionate. Presentation says a lot about you as a showman. Okay. If you're going to come in dirty and unprepared, it's going to take a lot to get that animal in the top 5. You're just not going to get the look. Okay. He can be a world beater, but it's going to take a pretty good judge to get by the fact that that lamb's not really presented. So presentation says a lot. Cover your angles, know what you got. Say thank you to the people who got you there. It means a lot. A lot of these people help you guys without any recognition or pay. All they want is a thank you. So tell your parents thank you, tell your breeder, your circle of friends, your advisors, your leaders, your agents, and especially your buyers and bidders, because they don't have to be there to support you, but they want to be there to support you. So make sure you say thank you to those people. And I'm gonna, invite those of you in sheep and goats. We're gonna be in New York, Brian, this year. We're gonna be in Maryland. We're gonna be in Montana. We're gonna be in California. We're gonna be in Ohio. We're gonna be in Tennessee. So we're gonna be in Pennsylvania. So a lot of opportunity to come see us at Champions Choice Camps. And we'll give you some of those tools that you might be looking for.
So I did just put in the link for Champion Choice Camp for the one that's in New York. So it's in the chat box. It is held at New York. We're doing it in Saratoga Springs, Ballston Spa, on May 19th. It's a Sunday. It is on a Sunday, May 19th, and it's really focused on you either pick sheep or goats, but the link is in the chat if you're interested in participating, right? It does cost money, right? And I will tell you as a parent, if your kids are working, and this is not anything to do with anything, but this is how I actually met Tracy last year, is my personal kids participated in the camp in Pennsylvania for the first time last year, and they will tell you themselves they learned more in that one day than they learned in the last 6 years of showing sheep. So well worth it. So it is not cheap, but I look at it as a sports camp, right? Go to sports camps, we're doing animal camps. So the kind of the same thing. You actually take your own animal with you, and that animal will probably lead better than any animal you had in the last few years. So
yeah,
with
they
that,
get pretty broke. Pretty broke.
If you remember right, Tracy, my son had a donkey last year. My youngest, he brought 2, and he was not going to show the one. And he fought us, and by the end, his lamb was amazing. So, anyways, questions you guys may have. Does anybody have a question? You can type in the chat or raise your hand, and we'll call you. So, MK, you want to unmute and ask your question?
I have a question for goats. So, I take a goat to one of your clinics in Sydney, Montana.
I also have a
And by the fair, I went in like May, and by the time I got to the fair in August, he still didn't lead. Like, he wouldn't want to lead no matter what I did. I tried different halters. He wouldn't lead. Like, what do you think I should have done? And he was small. But
So that's a tough one. Ghosts are high personality, high drama llamas, straight up. Like, when did you try the phantom halter?
yes, he liked that a little better, but he still didn't want to lead.
So you can't on that phantom halter, and I know we used it at Pennsylvania too, Brian. We had some goats that were just ridiculous, freaking lay down, roll. They were horrific. We put the phantom halter on, and if you gave a little pressure, not just tried to drag, but if you pulled a little pressure and you waited and they walked and then you released the pressure, they seem to respond to that. Okay. That the phantom halter is not a braking halter. Okay. It is not a braking halter. Did you try that goat with a chain? Not a chain halter, just the choker chain. Yes, you tried everything. I would probably try if you're gonna go back to that same breeder, try on a halter. You know what I mean? Like, try it out. Like, they don't have to necessarily walk, but just try it out. And I think you just got a bad drive. You got 10 more years, right? You got 10 years in this project. You're gonna get a bad draw once in a while. I think you got a bad draw. Now, the other thing I would encourage you is maybe to pick an older goat and a heavier goat that will allow you a little bit more room to be more aggressive on that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. I want you to be able to call us anytime though, when you get into that situation. So a good question. What else you guys got?
Fatten, do you have a question?
How do you get lambs to go into the creep feeder?
Just open it. Just you got slots, right? You got
Yeah.
when they're ready, they'll come in. So you got to put feed in there. Okay.
We have feet in there.
You can put a heat lamp in there or a lamp that has a light. I'm not a big heat lamp fan. They scare
Yeah, we
me to
have a
death.
heat lamp in there.
And they'll come in when they're ready. They'll come in. It'll be 3 weeks. They're not gonna come in on day 2.
Yeah, because they got their moms in one pen.
Yep, 3 weeks. 3 weeks. They'll be looking.
All right, Chloe, what's your question?
So I have a younger female goat doe, and she doesn't seem to be putting on weight. And I've tried sunflower seeds, I've tried regular pelleted grain, I've tried regular roughage, and I've tried sometimes scratch grain. I don't give them a lot of that, but I do out sometimes.
How old is this doe?
And she doesn't really seem to be putting on weight.
How old is
She's
she?
not really. I don't know how many months, but she's not even a year old yet.
You probably need to check her for worms. You need to pull her eyelids. If her eyes are super white, the whites of her eyes are really, really white, you have a fecal problem. I would say 9 times out of 10, you're wormy.
Yeah, I know what that's called. It's called Mancha.
Very good. You need to take a fecal sample to
She
your
likes
vet.
to eat. She eats.
I know, but that's not the problem. That is the problem. They eat and they don't gain because the worms are taking
Okay.
off the nutrition. So take the fecal content, take a fecal sample to your vet, and they'll run a fecal on it for you. That's the best answer.
So I have one question in the chat I was going to
Okay,
answer.
thank you for the info.
You're welcome, Chloe. You're welcome.
Do you know? So there's a question about cattle scales. Are they recommended? Any of them that are good? Cattle scales.
Cattle scales. Um, cattle scales. If you Google that, there's some that they're narrow. They're narrow and you walk them on and they're digital and they're probably about 6 foot long. I had an FFA kid that had those and they were like sweet. Man, I don't even know enough. I think if you would Google them, you would find them. Brian, you're gonna have to help me on that, but there's a
Yeah.
lot of digital platform scales that are good.
Yeah, and I even said for like the smaller animals, right? Like Amazon, like we bought a vet scales for dogs. I think it was $140 last year. You just put it's slick, it's slippery, so just put a
A rubber
carpet on
mat
it.
on it, zero
Yeah,
it.
and then
Yep.
just re-tear it. So that's something I think it was $140 and it's digital. It works great. So I did have a question a while ago about, and this I'm sure there's different opinions. I'm curious about on your views of a bottle fed versus mama fed. I know you had, I mean, there was a discussion we had
Oh.
last year about that.
Most people don't do a good enough job bottle feeding. They think they can give them a bottle in the AM and a bottle in the PM and think they're good. That's terrible. If you think about a lamb or a goat on a mom, they're eating every 2 hours, really. You know what I mean? It's free access. So if you're gonna bottle one, because it lost its mom or it wouldn't take it, you really, really, really have to bottle feed that thing every 3 hours around the clock. So 6 times 3 is 18 hours. You know what I mean? You have to, so 7 times. I'm busting my chops when I have a bottle baby. Because my bottle babies don't look like bottle babies. You can't even tell that they're different from the other. So you really have to make sure that you're giving them enough and that you're giving them it often. So it will work, but you have to be really diligent about it. To be average on a bottle baby, they're not going to get there.
Then the last question I have is, so we talked about goats and sheep camps, the one in New York. Any information on a beef camp?
Kirk Steerwalt does beef camps, and I wouldn't recommend going to anybody but him. That dude is fabulous. Now he's expensive, but he's absolutely the best. He will chalk draw sections on the calf, and those are the sections you fit after he demos it. He's super awesome, but you may have to travel to find some. I've
So he
got
was-
plenty of beef people, and I would love to add some to my camps. It's just their season is wonky compared to ours, so I can't get them all the time.
Amy Pira, are you on? See, Amy, there was one in New York last year. Kurt was in New York, correct?
Yeah,
Any,
he was in Niagara County last year, and I think that they have him every 2 years up in Niagara County.
I would
He-
travel for Kirk.
yeah, he was
He's the
absolutely
best.
fantastic.
Yep, he's the best.
so just follow him on, I'm sure it's on Facebook or on his page. Amy, you want to ask your question quick?
Any good hog camps to go to?
We try to do hogs. I'm just gonna tell you, man, they're hard. Because kids want to bring pigs not broke, and then they just stand in a pen and squeal. And then they're mad at me because I can't, we can't work with the pig because I can't get them out of the pen because I'm scared that if we push them too hard, I don't know who's gonna drop dead with the stress gene and who doesn't. We try to do some pig camps, but they're tough. I know Next Level was doing some. That would be the one I recommend. We're gonna try to put some pig ones back in, but it's really difficult. It's really difficult.
All right, so I did just put Kurt Stewalt's link in the chat, so you guys have that. Also as another clinic. So we are going to go ahead and I'm going to share my screen and we're going to start our Kahoot, but I actually have to close some pages as I've been helping and putting links in before I open the Kahoot. So we're going to start with our Kahoot. So, can you guys see my Kahoot? Oh, my wife just told me no.
Yeah.
Can you see it? Can you guys see the, let me, all right, you can see it now? All right. So if you've got a Kahoot, go to kahoot.it and hit the pin, or you can hit the scan in the picture in the top. So the pin number is 115402. I think you guys are all professionals at this now that we've done this a couple of weeks. And I know if you're doing Dairy Bowl, so I'm just going to put this out there. So those kids that are doing dairy, just a reminder that Debbie Grusenmeyer is actually doing these on Thursday nights for dairy. So the Wednesday night's livestock and Thursday night is dairy. And they're actually doing that for Dairy Bowl. So if you haven't signed up for the dairy one, that is also going on this time. All these are ending up, and I will share the links for you guys, and they're all ending up on the New York State 4-H YouTube page. Do you need it?
Yeah.
Couple more seconds before we if I'm
That's got it.
all right. I think everybody's on. I am gonna go a little slower than last time. I got some of the educators just gave me some insight on that. So we are gonna start, and here we go. I think I gotta move you guys around. Here we go. Are you ready? So, when preparing a week work schedule for showmanship, what should not be included? What should not be included? Walking, bracing, setting, or they all should be included. Very good. 35 of you got it right. So the correct answer is they all should be included. When you're planning your schedule, they should all walking, bracing, and setting should all be included. So our scores go up to Kenzie first. True or false? Is selection the controllable one of the controllable variables that impact the outcome of this project? True or false? Seven seconds. True, it is. So 100% selection is one of the controllable. Kenzie stays up on the top. Why is exercise important for show animals? Improve muscle composition, to decrease feed intake, to maintain body temperature, or to prevent from getting lazy? Talked a little bit about this. Down to 4 seconds. Your answer plugged in. Very good. To actually improve muscle composition. Great. Kenzie. Which factor affects the animal's phenotype? Lack of exercise, environment, grooming, and how many pets you have. Five seconds. It is environment. All right. So environment. Great job. Ann and Silas jumping ahead. All right, the next one. Why is it important? What is an important aspect of showmanship? Walking, handling, regular feeding, use of supplements, and grooming process. This is a trick question. Walking and handling, very good. Whoever Kenzie is rocking it. What is essential for an animal's environment? Social media, regular feeding time, sufficient living space, or hot weather? Oh, it was close, actually. Sufficient living space is essential in an animal's environment, right? So when we're talking about environment, this living space is and how much room per animal. Why is grooming important before a show? To maintain animals' health, to impress your friends, to showcase your grooming skills, or to improve your animal presentation? Correct. Improve your animal presentation. Great job. This is a slider. How often should ruminants be fed daily? Two times, right? Every 12 hours. Great job. True or false? It is important to monitor the signs of health in animals for a successful outcome. Look at that. Every single one of you got that correct. That's awesome. Great job. Why is exercise important for show animals? Increased fat composition initiates metabolism. Animals don't need to be exercised. Breaks down gains. Two, initiates metabolism. Getting there. 4 more questions. When should you wash your animal for its class? 2 days before, the morning before, the night before, or prior to your class? Prior to your class. Great job. What is essential for an animal's environment? Clean bedding, a good barn, selection, or use of a cattle dog? Clean bedding. Look at that. Almost all perfect. Great job. Who do you think? Parents, advisors, breeders, the audience? I might have messed up this one when I built this question. Let's see what it does. That was the wrong question. So that is the one. Who do you not think? That was supposed to be the question when I wrote that one. So sorry guys, we all got equal. That was the balancing act, that one. All right. My own kids are yelling at me, just so y'all know on that one. So What do you think we should talk about at your family meeting? What your animal names will be, your budget, what show dates and target weights or goals. What should you not talk about, I think is the question. These were the ones I was doing when I was trying to eat my supper. Good. All right. All right, next. And the last question, what is the formula to determine start weights? What is the formula to determine start weights? Birth date minus end weights equals start weight. Target end weight minus total goals equals estimated start weight. Gain weight minus estimated start weight and end weight. All right, great job. That is done. So let's see who is done. So number 3 is Sheep Farm. 2 is, oh, Anna. And 1, who is it? H-A-N-E, great job. Leslie and Rory. All right, guys, with that, so hold on, my Kahoot's going nuts on my computer.
Brian, I'm gonna go feed some sheep.
Yeah, so first, thank you very much, Tracy. We appreciate it. So thank you,
Absolutely.
guys. That is it for tonight. So next week we have somebody from the National Pork Producers, Eric, coming in and talking about swine health. So that is next week. So thank you guys all for joining us, and thank you, Tracy, so much.
Absolutely.
you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Hope you all learned well a lot. Thanks, Tracy.
Thank